So, thank you, Nathan, for giving me this opportunity to speak right now. I really appreciate that. So, we have like 5 minutes. But anyway, have any of you guys ever been around somebody that makes you, or seen someone that makes you feel uncomfortable, or, I'm looking at one right now. Nathan, how you doing? So today I'm going to discuss this topic, which is a quote written by Jones. It doesn't say first name, but it says, conscience, a small, still voice that makes minority reports. So I'm going to discuss 2 points and how this relates to me. So for my first point, this example, I was going to work one day, or going to my girlfriend's one day, back when I used to live in Bellflower, Lakewood area, if you guys know where that is. I was walking down the street, middle of the day, about 4 or 5 o'clock, or 3 or 4 around that time. I was walking down the street and I seen, 3 figures in the distance walking on the same street as me. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a little, what's going on over there? So they're walking towards me and they get a little closer. They're black, not trying to stereotype, but I was like, oh, they look a little suspicious, a little sketchy because they got, they're like gangbangers. So I was like, all right, it's either fight or flight. I don't know what I'm going to do. They might, might mug me. I'm just going to my girlfriend's house. So, they just end up walking past. So I'm like, hey, what's up? What's up? So I just walked past him. And for my second point, I was actually with some friends. We were going to Compton. If you guys know, it's a pretty sketchy area. There's a lot of songs about it. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. We were, going to a party in that area. And we get to the party, it's already like a sketchy area. It looked like a trap house. So I was like, I don't know, this is sketchy. I gotta pay for it too. It's like $2-3. So I get inside, and then I'm dancing with some girls, whatever, having a good time. And then I had to use the restroom, and the restroom was like in the back. So I had to and it was kind of crowded inside, so I kind of had to walk in front and go around to the back. So as I'm getting to the front, I see 5, 6, 7 individuals. They look really sketchy, so I was like, we might have to get out of here when I get back to the bathroom, because I gotta go. So when I get back, I tell my friends, let's go, because this isn't a good scene. It's already like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just seen some individuals come in and they don't look, like they're ready. They're here to, party, have a good time. So I tell them we leave, and just as I go, we drive down the street. Our friend calls us like, hey, are you guys still here? We're like, no. It's like, good, because they were shooting up the place, and good thing that you left. So I was like, okay, and unfortunately someone did get shot, a few people actually, and I don't know the result of that. But in conclusion, it's always good to listen to your gut feeling, and might as well just end with the quote, small still voice that makes minority reports. So, in conclusion, listen to your gut, because gut's your prime feeling. You really did come out. Because it's not I've been walking down I could go on the street. I really tried to just let me. It's low too. That's the last place I would be. It was because I had a few friends. They had some films.
All right, Jalen, the humorous reference to why you were speaking today as the attention device worked pretty well in that situation. I think everybody can kind of relate, and Nathan's going to go home this afternoon with a feeling of satisfaction, but also know that he's going to have it coming back at him at some point or other. You identify the topic, but I don't really know what the point is that you're trying to make, and I think you need to have a point. At the end of the speech, you do have a point. Listen to your gut feeling, and I like that. I thought that worked really well. And if you if you had had that in the introduction, then those stories that you told would make so much more sense. As it was, I'm listening and going, oh, how does this connect to, and what was the point he was trying to make? And I couldn't really figure those things out. You've got some okay details there. Sometimes you do the sort of thing that people might do in conversations where they pull their voice in a little bit, almost like they're talking to themselves. So I'm walking there talking, and I see these three people on the other, oh, this doesn't look like it'd be very good for me, that sort of thing. And I know you're kind of almost doing a character sort of thing, and it's like you're talking to yourself, but it doesn't quite work as well if you aren't making it clear to the audience that that's what you're doing. Instead, it just feels like you're rambling on a little bit. You can do that kind of thing, but it's got to be a little bit more self-evident that that's what you're doing. The stories both work about why you should be listening to your own voice, but obviously in the first situation, listening to your voice didn't mean anything because it wasn't a big deal. Just three guys walking the other direction.
Yeah,
but the second story, of course, I'm still trying to figure out what it was that was so sketchy about those guys that you saw that showed up at the party, said they didn't look like they were there to have a good time, and I'm going, okay, so they dressed a particular way. Oh, there's usually drugs out front.
They're kind of rushing the door, so I should have said that.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. You said there's something that's giving you a bad vibe about that situation, and then when you get to the point that you're making at the end, then it makes a lot more sense how those things are connected. All right, when you're talking to us, I think your voice projects pretty well, except for, like I said, the couple of times when you sort of drop out. And I know you're trying to do it as a characterization sort of thing, but it needs to be clear that you're doing that. Your gestures, most people figured out, especially after I told them to get the paper out of your hand, you've got it in your hand and it becomes a little bit of a pointer sort of thing. It's a little distraction. I think you are a little bit more self-contained because you've got that in your hand. But your facial expressions are animated. You look relaxed the whole time you're speaking. I didn't see any real anxiety, even though you seemed like you weren't all that anxious to speak, but it didn't seem like you were anxious about speaking, just you weren't anxious to speak, and there's a difference between those things. And like I said, I thought at the end you had a good exit line. You did finally make the point that you needed to make during the speech. Okay, thank you.